What's up, everyone? It is Diecastbuffet here again. Guys, I have a 2019 Erik Jones Dewalt Toyota Camry from the Nascar Authentics 187 Mystery Bag line. Let's go ahead and check it out. All right, folks, right here in the studio today, we have the Erik Jones 2019 car from the NASCAR Authentics line, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in to today's video. This is one of those generic mold diecasts from the the 2010s decade is what I meant. And a lot of people hated these things. A lot of people liked them. Clearly not enough people did because they unfortunately stopped making them. But at the same time, I can't lie. I was not a fan of these back when they were out and about in the retail stores. In my honest opinion, I'm just not a 187 collector guy, but I got these for free because they were sent in with the mystery bags, right? And I like doing the little mystery bag blind reveal. Shout out to Circle B Diecast, by the way, for sending those in with some of my orders. I really appreciate that. They send in miscellaneous random stuff. So my point is, I look at the 187 diecast from Lionel, in the late 2010s, because they did make some in like 2014, I think. But I look at more of these kind of like a novelty, something you could, make a keychain out of. You could put on your desk. If it falls off, you ain't worried about it. Rather than my traditional like 164s where I really take them seriously, like they're actual, like collectibles and whatnot. And ever since I've kind of looked at it from this perspective, I've learned to enjoy the 187s. So there's no windows, interior or anything. It's just one solid die-cast metal body with black window decals. Got Dewalt right there. A lot of people forget that Erik Jones used to be the Dewalt guy. I mean, he was the replacement for Matt Kenseth. Time flies, fellas. Got Camry right there. Got Joe Gibbs Racing, Moog Edelbrock, and then Sunoco, number 20. Go to the left side of the diecast. And a pretty nice little paint scheme. The Dewalt colors are always one of my favorites. I love their power drills. I'm not sponsored by Dewalt. But I tell you what, I love their power tools. They're fun. And I always like the Dewalt cars on track, right? And then they kind of went away for a bit. They came back with Kenseth, and then they said, you know what, we're doing pretty good for ourselves. We're going to stick around. And they're still in the sport to this day. And in a lot of ways, Christopher Bell reminds me of Matt Kenseth just a little bit because he's always winning in them Dewalt cars, man. The guy's got like 5 to 6 wins, I think, with the Dewalt paint scheme in his Cup career now. And he was a rookie in 2020, so he's doing pretty good. Pretty good. If you look at Matt Kenseth statistically from his Roush era, he's doing pretty well. Let's get the number 20 there, Dewalt. I forget we're not doing a 164 diecast review. I need to zoom in a little bit more and get you all a clearer picture so you can actually read the contingencies. So they've always had a really interesting way of doing contingencies in the Gen 7 era currently, but apparently they did so back in the Gen 6 era as well. As traditionally for a lot of years, a lot of these decals you might see over here, or, over here on the B post or the A post, or not A post, the C post. Nowadays, they could put logos on the A post, but they kind of have a giant gathering of them down there. They got Mobile One, Sherwin-Williams, Sport Clips, which now sponsors Hamlin and Christopher Bell. Got Interstate Batteries, Lincoln Welders, Doosan, a Random Hair, Simeon's, and whatever the biff that is. Mechanics Wear, 3M, K&N, Lincoln Welders, Goodyear, NASCAR Race Car, Erik Jones, Toyota, Joe Gibbs Racing, Resource. Go to the back end of the car, and I say this each time I do these 187 diecast reviews, but the rear portion of the car is so low. It reminds me of the restrictor plate package they had back in these years when they used to have a side skirt that would go underneath the rear panel of the car for the aero package. That's what it really reminds me of. Got the number 20. Toyota, Camry, Dewalt. Go to the right side of the diecast, and if this is the first time you're potentially seeing one of these, 187 diecasts from the late 2010s, they're a generic mold. They might not look like it, but they are verbatim the exact same diecast mold. Chevy, Ford, Toyota, be Camry, Supra, Xfinity, don't matter, right? It's the same exact diecast mold, good or bad. I would say it definitely resembles the 2018 Ford Fusion and the 2013 Chevy Cup car the most. That kind of smooth nose, really detailed look, if you ask me. I think they did a pretty good job considering, trying to get a paint scheme to look good on a generic mold can actually be a lot more difficult than, you know, people would expect, because every paint scheme has different key points and different, you know, headlight designs. And, you know, having a generic mold to fit all those is very difficult. If you go back to 2011 and 2012, they had a generic mold, but they found a way to not only get 3 manufacturer nose and tails to match, they also had a 4th one. They had Dodge. So they had 4 of them they had to fit on a generic mold. Nowadays in the truck series, we see this. You have 3 current truck manufacturers. Maybe a 4th one by the time you're watching this if Dodge decides to come back out of the woodwork. So that'll be interesting if they keep the same diecast mold. At the top of the car, you have the bold font, number 20 without the italic style to it. www.dewalt.com. And Dewalt once again. So, the question is today, out of all of the Dewalt paint schemes that have ran in NASCAR history, what is your favorite one? You know, Kenseth had a different Dewalt car almost every year. Like, real talk, if you look at his paint schemes, almost every year they changed. My favorite one from him, man, them COTs looked really cool. I'm not going to lie. His COT paint schemes are really cool, but it's probably going to be one of the Winston Cup era ones just because nostalgia. But he had an interesting paint scheme lineup because he kept the same colors, but they changed the car just slightly. Like Dale Jr. did the same thing, but it was more obvious with Kenseth that he had a different paint scheme than Dale Jr. Dale Jr. was like, okay, 2002, you had a black roof on the car. 2003, it's all red, right? 2004, okay, you know, they change a little here and there. With Kenseth, I mean, if you look at his 2001 car and then look at his 2004 car, there's a pretty substantial change. So this does come with a little cheap sticker, which is fine. I don't really recommend using these because they're probably not going to last long. You would just be better just kind of using this in a diorama. You know, if you had a diorama or something for a 124 scale or your 164 scales, this would be something to kind of decorate your little display with, but not taking it off the plastic the paper back. I would just use it like this. Heck, you know what you could do? You could take a magnet and probably glue it on here somehow. And then boom, now you got a free, you know, magnet that you can use, and you don't destroy the little sticker, and it doesn't get, you know, brittle and wither away. So that's just my honest advice. These 187 diecasts, they've interestingly, if I could English, fellas, they've kind of came around, right? They've kind of came around. At first they were hated. Now they're kind of cool again. Does that mean they're going to be making 187s anytime soon? Probably not, but my honest thing is that there's 2 forms of 187 diecast. The ones in the 187s in the 2000s, they were more of a collectible, right? They came in a display case. They had clear windows. They had interiors. They even made it for the COT, so you had the winglet and all that kind of stuff. Those were still collectibles, right? But the ones that were made in, like, I think 2014, I don't think they had a clear window. I think they were blacked out interior as well. So these are more or less, in my opinion, something that's novelty. Like if you want something you could put on your desk, right? If you want something you could put around like your little computer space, these would be perfect because they take up literally no space. If they fall on the floor, big deal. It's, you know, it's not taken seriously. Like, could you imagine like having a 2005, I don't know, Tony Stewart Brickyard Race to Win diecast or something, and he falls on the floor? Yeah, I'd be one unhappy person, okay? If I had a 2008 Kyle Busch Indiana Jones Darlington car and it was in the 164 and it fell off a desk, I would be very unhappy for the next 24 hours. But if this fell off the thing, I'm not tripping, right? That's kind of how I look at it. So thank you all so much for watching the video. Have a blessed one. Thank you all for watching Diecastbuffet. Thank you all again for 7,000 subscribers. I hope God blesses you all. Signing off.